everybody. We are live. My name is Dottie Berry, kind of known as Coach B, and we're all here with Pickleball Forum for Women. Except Kay, again, we'll say she's an honorary member because she's not on Facebook, but she is so with us in Pickleball Forum for Women. So we've got some great ladies on here again, and we're going to be talking about an unbelievable topic that I think is, I mean, inquiring minds want to know, what about pickleball partnerships? So let me just introduce these great people. First of all, Kay Quall, who is from Mount Vernon, Washington, a good friend of mine. Just a little bit south of where I live in Birch Bay. And then we've got Blake McMurray over there hanging out in North Carolina, on the East Coast. She's our East Coast gal. The rest of us are West Coast. And
Hey
then we've got
y'all.
Trace. Hi, y'all. I know. Oh, we got a dog going. Yeah, there we go. Hey, there's something for everybody here. And then we have Tracy Wilcox, and Tracy and Dave, her husband, they own a great facility in Santa Barbara, and that's where we are having our upcoming Pickleball Escapades retreat by women for women. We're really excited. That's coming up March 6th through 9th. And then in the fall, we're going to be having something in Costa Rica. More about that later. But let's get to the pickleball partnerships. Hey, what's the word on the street with partnerships? Anybody jump in right now?
Well, what I noticed is when asked the question, what do you look for in a partner or what makes a solid partner? The reflection right off the bat was, that's a really good question. And I do think it's a good question because not only will it help us find people that we enjoy playing with, but it helps us analyze our behavior on the court when you hear what other people are looking for. And then you can go through a checklist of like, ooh, I don't do that. Or yeah, I do that. So I think it can help shape us as better players.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
interesting you said that because I was just going to add that I videotaped some people. So when I first asked them, I said, "Now at the end of pickleball play today, would you be willing?" They went, "Ooh, let me think on that." And then even when it was time to record afterwards, someone were like, "Oh, let me get my hat and cover up. I'm all sweaty." Anyway, it was just fun doing it and getting people's feedback. And one of the first things people said was they wanted somebody fun.
Mm-hmm.
They really, and I think energy is so important. And having said that, I want to just ask you all, when people are either moaning and groaning about having played with a particular person in a tournament, do you ever hear them say, "Oh, they just weren't fun"? Or do you hear them complaining about their game in some way? So I think sometimes there's a gap in between what people say they want and what they're actually willing to admit that they want in terms of results. Anyway, I don't know. That one just came to me this afternoon after I started. I think everybody's well intentioned about, yes, we want to have fun. We want to have joy in it. I do. I know that's really important to me. Blake, you were going to say something.
Well, I'm just excited that we're talking about things like this because I think one of the things is we just get so caught up in the different components of the game, the strategy of the game, the shots, the mechanics. We don't spend a lot of time thinking about this part of it, but this part of it is big. It's big, and thinking about what do we want for ourselves when we're playing with somebody, that helps set boundaries for ourselves to help ourselves be in a better position to play and bring our best. But when you reverse that and you're like, all these things that you finally thought out that you want, okay, can you start working on being that person for the
Yeah.
other person? Like, so it's kind of a flip side of it. We're looking at, okay, what do we want? What will help us play the best? And then what can I start bringing? Because I know for me, like I've just been so self-focused trying to work my way up the ranks. Like all I've thought about is myself. So talking about the partnerships is super helpful in what I need, but what I want to develop in myself for other people as well.
Yeah. Good insight, Blake. What about you, Tracy? We've had some good feedback from Kay and Blake. What about you? I know you big on partnerships.
Yeah, I really am big on partnerships because it's a game where we have a partner. One, it's controllable and it's an uncontrollable, right? Like we can't control. I mean, we can control who we play with, but we can't necessarily control if our partner is going to have a good day or a bad day, or if I'm going to have a good day or a bad day. So it's one of those things that like we have to like have this balance of like we can control it, but we can't control it. And that's been a huge struggle for me. But I think the one that came up most was having a healthy, and this was Fran wrote this perfectly, but she said having a healthy balance of a drive to win and acceptance of defeat. And
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think it was so well put. I think I've worked really hard on this myself as a partner, that I want to dig in. I want to be the best partner. I want to give my best. I want to work as hard as I possibly can. And then I want my partner to do that too, win or lose. Like it's not about the result anymore for me. It's about, well, me and Blake just had this conversation. It's about at the end of the day, I want to be mentally resilient, right?
Yes.
So I want my partner to be mentally resilient with me. And I have to tell you, when I'm preparing for a tournament with a couple partners right now, and there are days that we just kill it, and there's days that we don't. And I think that bad days are actually more telling about the relationship than the good days. Like it's easy to be a good partner on the good days. It is harder to be a good partner on the bad days. And so for me, that's it. And then if we have that healthy balance between the winning and the losing, the good and the bad, I think that helps kind of keep relationships better and moving forward and learning how to support one another. And the thing is different partners need different things. And figuring that out is probably the hardest part of it, because I don't need my partner to talk to me, especially when I'm hitting a ball. If a partner yells, your ball, when I'm about to hit like a forehand winner, I will miss the shot. And I'm just like, why would you even say that to me when I'm like, and so as my partners learn that, it helps, right? It helps them know not to yell yours in the middle of a put away. Like it's more of an obvious, it is my ball. So, but that's small, like that's a small tweak. And that's just only specific to me. And then some of my partners don't really like to paddle tap, they just want to move on. One partner really likes to say sorry after every shot. And I'm, say sorry. It was bugging me at first because I didn't want them to think they had to say sorry. I wanted them to, right? Like I wanted them to know that every time we take a shot, we either miss it or make it. So, and we already know. So I think that was out of all my conversations, just kind of that healthy balance of a drive to win and the acceptance of defeat was a big common theme.
Tracy,
Yeah.
just to piggyback off of
Yeah.
your part about communication of your ball, my ball, I'm left-handed. And so I'm a talker. And I did have a person that I was playing with. She said, don't call the balls. It's interrupting my play. And she did it very appropriately. And it was during kind of a little timeout. But I was so thankful that she was communicating that and let me know what she wanted. And so that is so important. And many people that I interviewed of what are they looking for in a solid player, and good communication. So your example of saying what you want is really important. So thank you for bringing that up.
I mean, so here's the thing that communication came up. It was like, I want my partner to be a good communicator. And I kept going being back, like, what does that mean to you?
Mm-hmm.
And that was interesting because it was different for every person. Some people said to talk about strategy, take your time out to talk about strategy, talk about it, as you're going to pick up the ball. Like that's what it meant for some person. Another person, it meant having, the come ons, let's go, the yours, mine. That was communication for them. So I think that was even an interesting thing, like what communication means to partners is actually very different. So I think you actually have to be in communication about what communication means with your partner, because it is very different. I know for one of my partnerships, talking about what we're going to do with the ball every single point, after every single point, and every return is very important. And that's what communication means in that partnership, where maybe some of my other partnerships don't need that, very clear communication every time. And maybe it'll even distract them. Like, I can't tell, there's one partner I play with, I cannot tell her where to put the return of serve, because if she does and she's thinking about it too much, she'll miss it. I just got to let her play. So that's what I'm like, that's what I think is we have to think about, what does communication look like in each partnership.
Yeah, I think one of the interesting things I've noticed is that it seems that people go and play a tournament, and based on the results, they either move ahead or they ditch a person. And I think that's a shame, because I think sometimes a partner might really be good for somebody if they just stick it out a little bit. It's like any other relationship. People, you hear them say one and done, oh, we out of that tournament. Well, people treat each other that way sometimes too. One and done, I'm through with you. And so I think, just like a friendship or a marriage, or, if you're living with somebody, it's not always about what happens the first time out. It's about what happens time after time if we give each other an opportunity. I personally love to talk about strategy, but everybody might not enjoy that. But I can say that I'm looking for a partner. Just hear me out if you're out there, that really enjoys that, and who enjoys watching the pros play, you know, each weekend that they're available, and breaking down some of the games. And okay, so we're not a pro, but what can we do that we saw that we like that they did, and how can we apply it in our game at our level? So I don't know. I just enjoy somebody who's willing to spend that kind of time. Like before a tournament. Uh, I don't want to be talking, during the game totally. I am really excited that I finally learned how to say you, me, because, in the beginning, I just I couldn't do that at the same time I was hitting. It was just too much for me to comprehend. I was like, oh, I can't hit that ball and be calling it. But somebody, I think, has to kind of be the quarterback on the team. And sometimes it works better if one person is that person who's kind of calling it out. I don't know. So you're not like tripping over each other in the communication any more than you're tripping over each other with your paddles clanking in the middle because you don't know how to play the balls. I don't know. What do y'all think?
I'm the caller when I play. Like, I'm the caller. And when I went to Santa Barbara last year and Tracy's like, don't call balls, I was like, I'm so used to doing it. Like, I'm so used to do it. But that was so helpful because I want to know that about Tracy. I want to respect that about Tracy because I want us to have a good partnership together. I want to be the partner that helps her play her best game. Like, so we compromise. We do what raises both of us up. So that's what I like about that. And people's styles are different.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of times we're just not even having the conversation. Like, I think people are probably open to it, but it's different if it's like tournament player, like my mixed doubles player is one thing, but going to play rec, like that's a different story. Like, so it's two different kinds of partners. It's a partner that you're kind of sticking with and you're working on strategy with, or we do a lot of open play. Like, we're just going to rec play. Like, sometimes that's the harder thing to deal with. Like, how do you deal with that?
What do you think about the differences are between how you approach it for rec and how you approach it for your tournament partners? I think there's some real distinctions, but what did you all find from the feedback you got from people?
Well, with rec play, it's just usually it's a round robin, or at the most you're playing 2 out of 3 and then switching. So you don't have as much time to really get to know your partner. And the one question that I like to ask in rec play is, what do you do well? What is your favorite shot? So then I'll know if they're a dropper, then if I'll say, can you drop in front of me? Because then I'm going to look for the poach. If they're a driver, then I'm going to be mentally prepared that it's going to be coming back really fast. And so just being upfront with what is your best shot. And also another question I like to ask is, what are you working on? So if they're working on a shot and they make a mistake, keep doing that. That's what you're working on. Let's keep on working on that shot. So it's definitely different questions when you're working with somebody in rec play versus tournament.
And I gotta say, Kay's one of the most fun people to play with you'll ever play with. You know, she really is. She always has a big smile, and I just always find myself filled up from being around Kay and also her partner Vincent. We have some great times playing on the court together, and then having amazing conversations off the court. So I think we're just kind of in sync with the energy. And you know, when the energy's there, everything's good. I know I was being warmed up by a gentleman the other day, while we were waiting to play at the Civic Center in Palm Springs. Uh, and so when we finished and it was my time to go in, he said, "Well, go get you a win." And I said, "Well, I just hope I get a L." And he looked at me and I said, "That's learning." And he started laughing. I said, "Yeah, I want to learn something today." And it's not always connected to the win. Because I'm going to tell you, sometimes, and Kay and I have talked about this, you can win a game 11-0 and you had not one good rally. You know, it was like, and I can lose on the other hand, not that it feels good to lose 0-11, but I could have had really tremendous rallies and I can be really filled up and excited about it because we just had fun. It was like, oh, this is really pickleball. So I don't know. I sometimes I think finding people who find the joy in that kind of style, because not everybody does, and it's okay. It's good for me to know that. Look, you just want to win the damn game. You're not interested in what you just want to win. It's good that I know that about that person in rec play because I need to focus differently, right? I mean,
Right.
I don't need to remind them, oh, I'm working on, this shot that I learned from Kyron Burrell last week about how to come wide. Oh, like this, like the Ben Johns where you catch the ball behind you, and that's how they're able to just stand on the non-volley zone line and not run like little rabbits. Because we always hear, oh, move your feet, move your feet. Karen says, "Oh my gosh, like he was running us ragged on the other side while he's just sitting there." Now, he's a big, tall guy. I get that. But he taught us different ways of dealing with shots that didn't have us scampering like little rats, going over there to get the wide ball and scampering back. And he's just over there doing it. So I don't know. Just a little thrown in on that.
One thing I liked about us talking about this partnerships is the engagement that we've had with people. Like, I think that's been really fun. And Kay, that was actually Kay's idea, who's not on Facebook yet. But it's been really fun. So the ones that were out on the court kind of interview people and talk to people. I posted because I'm not on the court very much. But there were a lot of themes that were similar. And like my friend Julie was like, being believed in and being uplifted. Nothing worse than somebody who doubts you or goes into a game speaking negatively about anything. Like, that's a big part of it, is your positive attitude, your positive energy. When you're at a tournament and you walk down the courts and you're watching, like, you can tell which team is struggling, like the energy of that, just the negativity of that. I don't think we really pay attention to how much the energy and the attitude goes into our outcomes. It really is wild. A lot of more like positive feedback, like staying connected with each other during points, not just doing your own thing. Like, we're actually connected and we're for each other. My friend Heidi is like, I want Thomas Wilson on my side of the net going, yeah, Heidi. Like, it's like we want people cheering for us, that we know we can play our game without having to just be so careful about, I'm going to mess something up and then they're going to be mad or they're going to be frustrated. Like, I want a partner that is like, I want you to go for the shot. Like, go for the shot. And if you miss it, way to go. Like, you're going to get it next time. Not like, can't believe she missed that again. Like, if you do that to me, I'm going to miss the next 5 shots. If you cheer me on, if I'm trying something and I miss it, like, I'm going to go for the next one. And that makes me a better partner.
Blake, I find it's interesting that you're bringing this up. When I watch tournament play, one thing that I notice is the person who makes the mistake, the first thing they do is look at their partner.
Yeah.
And they're looking for that feedback of, are you okay? And I think we just do it subconsciously. And it's really interesting to watch that usually it's the team that they're connected and they're in sync with each other, that they just do better together. It's that
Yeah.
energy that you can actually feel. But it is really interesting to watch and then I catch myself, what do I do when I make a mistake? Where am I looking for affirmation or lack of? So this is real stuff.
It is. Like, as I'm trying to get back on the courts from injuries, so I'm just doing a lot of rec play right now. I'm really paying attention to when somebody makes a mistake, like, I'm filling that gap. Like, I'm being positive. I'm like, oh my gosh, you've got that. You do so well with that shot. Like, it's okay. We've got this. Like, I'm out there modeling what I want a partner to do for me.
Yeah.
And it's a little rare.
Yeah.
And I haven't been that way because I've been so self-focused on what I was doing. So I like the shift. The shift is moving in the right direction.
Yeah, I would also say, I mean, we've talked about it a little bit, the word energy. I think it is very possible for us to change our energy based on a partner. I started to work on this because what I was realizing, when I step onto the court, and this is maybe even mixed, I often step on as the alpha. Like I would say maybe one of my biggest superpowers is I can figure out where, like, the strategy of the game, like this is just where I step, but it doesn't always work for me to be the alpha on the court. Sometimes I need to back up and let the other person do it. I have a women's partnership in one of them, and I just play rec with her. But if I go onto the court and I'm the domineering, like, this is what we're going to do, it's automatic shutdown for her, right? And I have to let her lead. But if she leads, then it's like beautiful. Like, it just works. And so I've and there's some partnerships that don't like a lot of energy, like that, oh, come on, let's go. Like that's not good for them. And there's some partnerships that love that. You know, they need it. They need their rah, rah, let's go. So I do think that we can be very cautious of what kind of energy do I need to bring to this partnership. I also know that we might do all this work to be better partners, and the people we're partnering with have no idea. Yeah. You know what I'm talking about? Like I'm literally adjusting my energies to these other people. They have no freaking idea. They just think that this is just the way the partnership goes, but they have no idea that I'm actually choosing to do this so that I can partner with them better. It always starts with us. Like, and we can go back to it might not be reciprocated. Like, we might go onto the court, be the most positive person, and paddle tap our partner, tell them good job, change our energies, change the way we play a little bit. Maybe even we change our shot selection because one shot that we're giving is actually putting our partner into their weakness. We might even change the way we play. We might drive more, or we might not drive more, whatever it is. And they might never know, and nor will they change anything about the way they partner. And I think we have to be okay with that. Like, we just have to understand that this is part of our process, and that isn't uncontrollable. Is how does someone partner with us? It just might never be reciprocated.
Yeah. I think I've been so fortunate here in Palm Springs. I have like 5 different groups that I play with. It's kind of interesting because being in the world, Mark, rather than being having a home in a community, means I get to just sort of operate around all of them and be invited into them. And it's so fascinating. But the one thing that is so consistent with all these women's groups is how incredibly gracious they are, generous of spirit. Like the ladies that I videoed, you saw them, Christy, Liz, Jennifer, and Sherry. I mean, when they say this is what they want, and they really like kindness, and they like that kind of energy and positivity. They exude that themselves. They really do. And although I know we're all competitive, all these groups are really super competitive. But at the end of the day, I feel like from all of them, that's who they really are as people, kind people, generous of spirit, and it makes it so much fun to play with them. I just don't ever leave the courts thinking I don't want to go back to that place, you know. And I think that just says so much about them. And if you're listening out there, Palm Springs ladies that I play with, and Mo Burrell, who I go and play with at the courts they have, and her son Kyron does clinics, and I'm just in gratitude for being invited to hang out with these people, because they're really, I mean, we enjoy hanging out off the court as much as on the court. So that's great. Yeah.
That's cool. Tracy, I want to go back for a second to what you're talking about, like with you see strategy and talk strategy. Like, it's so interesting to think about that, because my style, I don't see that. I don't see the things the way you see. But if we're playing together and you talk strategy to me, I can execute it. Like, that's interesting to just thinking about communication with a partner. Like, it is really fascinating, because I can follow your lead really well. Like, at some point, I hope that I'm the strategist. Like, I'm working on it. But thinking about partnerships, like, what are your strengths? Like, what can you bring to the table, and where can you help your partner shine? Like, if I'm playing with Tracy, I'm going to encourage her. Like, I know you see things on the court. Like, you're seeing things way before I even know they're happening. So if you see something happening, you tell me, and then I can adjust to that. Like, that's helpful for her. Then she feels free to do that without feeling like she's like trying to coach me or something. And we're going to play better as a team.
And, you know, and she might see something several times in a row, you know, happen, and she might say, hey, do you see this trend, that do you see this pattern happening? And it takes a few times to see a pattern, but you know, when she points it out, you go, of course. And then, you know, you have an opportunity to execute on that pattern that you're seeing.
Mhm.
I don't know. I mean, I think it's great when you have somebody like a Tracy and a Kay, and you can, you know, just be with them on the court in that way. It gives a comfort that I don't even know how to describe it. I just say it's a comfort that helps you play your best. And so that's what I'm always looking to do is, you know, how can I help my partner? Because it is a partnership. And I remind myself and people when I'm working with them as a coach, look, that middle line that is good to tell whether the serve's good or bad, that line disappears, you know, after the serve. There is no like, oh, don't get over in my space or whatever. It's always a communication and the switch and the, you know, where we need to go. And, you know, when we don't have eyes in the back of our head, like if you're moving, you gotta, you know, say something to me, because and say it loud to me, because obviously with my hearing loss, I tell people, look, it's a good chance to talk behind my back, but please don't do that. Just give me some communication back there. Yeah.
Well, I'll just chime in and say that when I have found something that works for my partner who's a little frazzled, and I'm just like, hey, have you noticed how well that middle ball's working? Just go middle. It's amazing how fast things can change for that partner, because often people who aren't playing well or are frazzled, it's because they don't know where to play. And so giving them that spot, I know, like 2 weeks ago, we were playing in the wind and the ball was going everywhere, and it was so hard to like execute. And I was kind of getting frazzled a little bit. And my partner said, hey, just hit window 4, just hit window 4. And I was like, well, duh, you know. And I was like, why didn't you tell me that earlier? And he's like, oh, I've been saying it, you know. But as soon as I was like, oh yeah, just hit window 4, it was like, it kind of took out like the self-doubt and what I needed to do, and just gave me that focus. And so, you know, when I got the ball, I was just like, just hit window 4, just hit window 4, you know. So anyways, it's yeah, it's good sometimes to give yourself or your partner to give you a very specific thing to do, instead of, oh, don't hit it down the middle really high. Go really high, right? But hit it to this person's backhand, or hit it this. Often the one thing me and my partner say is make the ball bounce. That's maybe our number one thing is, gosh, you just got to make that ball bounce, you know? I don't know. It helps. It just helps when you have a more focused thing to do.
Yeah, the mental here, I think what you brought up, Tracy, is so, so important. And that is to say what you want them to do versus what you don't want you to do. I always used to look back at coaching basketball, and I said, if a coach would call a timeout and say, don't foul, whatever you do, don't foul. Well, the first thing the player would go back in and do is foul. Like, you got to tell them what to do. So I've got this question for you, and I know, Kay, you do a great job at it. And I know, Blake, you probably do too, more than you realize. But how did you develop this skill as a partner, and how did you start practicing learning how to communicate that skill that you were developing? Because I do believe that it's a skill that can be developed, and this is very important since we're talking about partnerships. I mean, I don't know if people are out there listening going, wait a minute, I don't know how to do that, I don't know how to break it down. Tell us, some of your tips.
One thing that happened for me in a tournament is I was playing mixed, and my dinks were too wide and they were going out. And my partner just very calmly said, he goes, put 3 in the middle before you go wide. And what he was doing was just giving me a really simple shot and helping me feel comfortable, and then go wide. And just that little bit of feedback just brought my energy of anxiety just down into my body, and I could just feel my body, and I knew I could go middle. And so giving a really precise piece of advice, and there was no put down in it. It wasn't your other dinks aren't working. Do this and then go wide. So it was, I felt that was super helpful.
Yeah, I would say, I think you're talking about the strategy. How do we come up with like learning the strategy? I think I've always had it in my head that I'm a huge Peyton Manning fan and Bronco fan. So I used to love Peyton Manning because I would watch him, and he would come out the first half and he would play his game, and then the second half he'd come out and just destroy, right? He just used, and I heard him say this, he just used the first half as just collecting information about the defense.
Yeah.
And then the second half was about, oh, well, they don't like this play, or this play worked. And then they just would, poke holes into the weaknesses. I think for me, that's been just something that's been modeled through watching him play. And then for me, I've always played a lot of games like Settler of Catan. I think Settler of Catan is a great game to play for a pickleball player because there's a lot of planning out of things, and strategy games. I play poker online every once in a while. We were having a poker tournament, so I was getting into that. Like, there's just a lot of things we can do off the court that actually help this. Any strategy game. I was doing some mental games that were just all about speed and stuff, and I think it just kind of helped keep my nervous system. Because here's the thing is, you're probably not seeing strategy is because your nervous system is in overdrive and you're not slowing down the game. So for me, when I've been able to work on that nervous system and see it, now I'm slowly seeing the game, and I just see what works or don't work. We play this drill, and it's, you have to fire on 3, 1, 2, 3, fire. You have to fire on 3. And it's been really interesting because it's made us take in information like, oh, that didn't work, but that didn't work. And I can set up the third shot by, if I go here, 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 bam, here, 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 bam. Oh, wrong spot, right shot, wrong spot, And so I think it's just like the way I drill. And then I watch a lot of videos of our students, and that's been really interesting. And watching how patterns work. I think people play in patterns more often than you think they do. They have tendencies to go wide with their thirds, or go middle with their thirds, or they have a tendency to drive, or they have a tendency to drop, and it's just all information for me. It's just collecting collecting information, and because I'm not attached to the information is just stays clear. Like, yeah, we're losing a lot of points when you go cross court. So don't go cross court anymore. Go middle of the body, try that. And if that's not working, then try dinking to their forehand and then see how that goes. Or, you know, when you try a lob, or like, I think it's just like, you can keep trying things until it works. And when you find out what works, and I think this is actually the hardest part, when you find out what works, keep doing that thing over and over and over. And that's probably the number one mistake I see people make, is that they finally figured out the formula and then they don't stick with it because it's not as fun to keep hitting the same shot over and over and over, you know? And so for me and my tournament players, that is probably the thing we have to talk. That's why we have to talk about it every single time. We're going to go middle with the ball. We're going to go middle drive with the ball. We're going to drop to the person's backhand. We're going to go back, you know, like whatever it is, because it's hard to stick in the strategy of the game, especially when things get heated and, you know, our nervous system is going a little berserk. You know, knowing how to, you know, calm it down is giving yourself something that you're specifically doing. So obviously you hit a point with me. I could just talk about this forever.
That's great. Yeah.
Well, I like how you phrase things. That's one of the things I realized last year. And I actually saw it Barry out last year because I was so in my head on the court with pickleball, for this mental fitness. And I was saying everything in the negative, like, I don't need to hit it high. I need to remember to do my feet. I needed to like this, instead of how Tracy phrases things, the balls in the middle work really well. Like, just the positive side of it is so incredibly helpful. So especially communicating as partners, I think that's really helpful because you have so much self-doubt on your own. Oh my gosh, we have so much self-doubt. Like, we're already battling that. If we feel it from our partner, it just, but the way you're phrasing that when you're talking strategy with people gives you room to breathe. Like, it's, oh, okay, I can focus on that. I can do that. It gives you more confidence because you do it. I mean, so it's such a win-win the way you're doing that.
No, thank you.
Yeah, so we've had a lot of good feedback. We could probably just be here another couple of hours talking about partnerships and especially with tournament. You know, we might just one day just go, okay, let's just really break it down for partnerships who are going to play in a tournament. Okay, because we know that is a whole different set of criteria. I mean, it's as much as how many weeks out are we going to start playing and how many times are we going to play and who are we going to identify to play against leading up to this tournament, and what is going to be our thing, even like what we eat and what we, you know, and what is the expectation on, you know, like if you like to have drinks, okay, I want to know that you're not having 4 drinks the night before the tournament. I mean, you know, this may sound crazy, but we need to know about people and what their lifestyles are like in terms of preparing their mind, their body, their spirit, everything. So this is like, I say, let's get so excited about a partner that we want to spend time getting to know them. Just like if you were dating somebody, you know, if you're going to go out with somebody, don't you want to really get to know what makes them tick? So I think there's a lot of things that especially at lower levels, I mean, people, it's amazing. They just like show up and play, you know. And I think there's help that we can give people at every level that is pertinent to them at that level, if that makes sense. I don't want to overwhelm somebody with so much information when they're having their very first tournament, but I think there are some good things that we can share with them to help them be more comfortable. Because people, most of the time in a first time tournament, just, well, I'm thinking back to my first one, you know, just freaking myself out. And if somebody had just been able to help me a little bit, I think it would have been a little bit more enjoyable. I don't know. So maybe another time we drill it down on partnerships and playing tournaments together. Sound good?
Sounds good. Yep.
Okay. Anybody got anything to add before we
No, but
Go
if you
off you.
guys have topics you want us to talk about and engage on, like send them in. Let us know.
Yeah, absolutely. Like put a comment in, we're all sharing this on a regular timeline and we're all sharing it in Pickleball Forum for Women, which is a private group. Okay. But we love to share information everywhere. So we're also, have the link to YouTube, but put a comment in there on YouTube or in Pickleball Forum for Women or under our own personal profile and say, look, we'd like to hear you talk about this. Because, guess what? We're just having conversations. That's really what we're having. And we're wanting to engage other people in the conversation. So we welcome whatever you have to offer us. Okay. All
Thanks,
right.
Dottie, for doing this.
Thanks,
Until
Tracy.
next time.
Bye,
Okay. Bye
guys.
for now.